Adnan made a number of statements in that particular debate that I have a feeling we might be hearing again this evening. In a debate at Trinity College, Adnan said, "Can we trust the gospel records? I believe that we don't even have what Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John and Paul even wrote, let alone what God might have revealed to them." He also said there are more variant readings in the New Testament than there are words. We do not have two similar manuscripts of the New Testament in their contents. And it is impossible to know today what Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John and Paul might have written. Now, I would call that a position of radical skepticism. These statements represent skepticism beyond that even of unbelieving scholars, like Bart Ehrman. The picture of the New Testament that was given to that audience that night is never presented by anyone who has done firsthand study of the New Testament documents. For example, here on the screen, I asked my computer to compare the two most dissimilar printed editions of the Greek New Testament. For those of you who know anything about New Testament textual criticism, this is a comparison of the Alexandrian text with the Byzantine text. These are the two edges of the spectrum. And it might be a little bit difficult to see, but actually I think it's pretty clear. This is Hebrews chapter 6, verses 8 through 20. There are exactly three places, right there, and right there, marked in green, where the most dissimilar printed editions of the Greek New Testament vary from one another. That doesn't mean that it's difficult to determine what the original reading was there. But look at how much of the text there is absolutely no variation whatsoever. None. When we hear about the idea that, well, there's more variations than there are words in the New Testament. Well, let's say there are 400,000 variations, and there happen to be 138,162 words in the Nestle-Aland 27th edition of the Greek New Testament. So here's a graphic. And so the red would be the total number of variants, and the blue would be the total number of words. And people hear that and you go, that's like 3 possibilities for every word. No, it's not. That's not what that means in any way, shape, or form. Let's keep a few things in mind as we think about this. As I said, 99% of all variants do not impact the meaning of the text. Variations in spelling and word order make up the vast bulk of the variations. Hence, 1% of 400,000 is 4,000 meaningful textual variants. Out of 138,162 words is 2.9%, or one meaningful variant every 3 pages. But only half of these are viable. That means that only half of them have an opportunity of actually having been the original readings. So there are about 1,500 to 2,000 viable, meaningful New Testament textual variants. That's quite a different picture. In fact, if we were to look at the graphic with that in mind, now the blue is the number of words, and that little red line over there is the number of meaningful variants in comparison to the number of words. And so think about it with me for just a moment. 1,500 to 2,000 meaningful and viable variants over 2 million pages of hand-copied text spanning approximately 1,500 years prior to the invention of printing is an amazingly small percentage of the text, reflecting an amazingly accurate history of transmission. One might well say it is completely miraculous in what you have there. Now, what then do we need to be thinking about this evening? 3 things. Free transmission of the text versus controlled transmission. The free transmission of the New Testament, Christian believers want everybody to know the gospel. And so they put their text out. And remember, for the first 250 years of Christian history, the Christian people are persecuted. And eventually, very early on in history, the Romans outlaw the Christian scriptures as well. And so we have evidence of literally thousands of manuscripts being destroyed by the Romans. Now, that's going to be different than the destroying of manuscripts that we're going to see in regards to the history of the Quran. Because the destruction of New Testament manuscripts wasn't of a certain text type. The Roman soldier didn't know what he was destroying. He could care less. In fact, some Christians fooled Roman soldiers by giving them secular books, which they couldn't tell from being Christian books. And they got away with it. Thousands of manuscripts destroyed. So Christians are having to produce a lot of manuscripts. There's a lot of copying going on because Christians love their scriptures and they want other people to have the message of Jesus. And so you have this wide transmission, and it's going on in France, and it's going on in Spain, and Italy, and Asia Minor, and Caesarea, and it's going on in Egypt, and it's going on in North Africa, and it's going on all over the place. And at no time does anyone have control over that text. The result is only 1,500 to 2,000 meaningful variants that we really have to do some work on. And remember, the original is still there. Our job is to examine the manuscripts and find out which one the original is. The original is still there. Nothing's disappeared. In fact, later manuscripts tend to be a little bit longer because scribes tended to expand names of deities. So if in the earlier manuscripts you had Jesus, later scribes tended to put the Lord Jesus. Or if it was Lord Jesus in the original, then it became Lord Jesus Christ. They tend to be a little bit longer. As a friend of mine has put it, this really good way of putting it, in dealing with the New Testament text, because we have such a rich amount of manuscripts, basically what you're dealing with is a jigsaw puzzle with a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle, but we have 1,010 pieces. It's not that there's something missing. It's not like one of those horrible situations you get to the end and there's a hole in it because the cat ate one of the pieces and you didn't realize that it happened. That's not what we have with the New Testament. Instead, the issue is what was added later on, in the sense of a word or a phrase, nothing more than that. That is, in reality, the best way to transmit a document from antiquity. The best way. The only other more accurate way is to chisel it on a rock someplace. Then you got to hope there's not an earthquake, or you got to hope that it doesn't get weathered and worn away, or vandals don't come along and destroy it. There are other ways that can be destroyed. The best way to get a message out was the way the New Testament was transmitted. The result was you had people who weren't professional scribes who made copies. Their handwriting may not have been so good, so people made a mistake copying what they wrote. Okay, we can deal with that. And we're wide open about that. You can go online today. The Nestle-Aland 28th edition is going online. You can look at every variant there is. Christians are wide open with their text. Versus controlled transmission. What if someone had come along and gathered up all the New Testament manuscripts? Couldn't do it, but what if it had happened? And then they put out the official version. And then they destroyed everything before that. Now you can't get past that point. Now you have to trust the person that made that redaction, that revision, got it absolutely perfectly right. That's controlled transmission. The multifocality of the New Testament, multiple authors, various times, different audiences, means again there could not have been any type of controlling authority. And then the tenacity of the text. The original readings are still there. When I debated Bart Ehrman on this subject, I asked him to give me one place in all the New Testament. Here is the biggest critic of the New Testament in the world today. Bart Ehrman, show me one place where you believe that the original reading of the New Testament is no longer found in the New Testament manuscripts. Boy, you would think he'd have hundreds of them, right? No. He had one. And it was the difference between Enochi and Enoch in Peter. And there's not a single manuscript that supports his conjectural emanation at that place. That's all he had. One. And it had nothing to do with anything. It had nothing to do with God or Jesus or anything else. Because you see, Bart Ehrman recognizes. He's even said, New Testament textual criticism today, all we're doing is we're tinkering. We're playing around. We know what it said. We know what it said. And you see, his problem is he doesn't believe that God still speaks. And I hope there's nobody in this room tonight that would agree with him on that, no matter what your position is. So, there you have what we're dealing with this evening.